Welcome learners. Myself Pradeep Kumar Mishra. I am a professor and director Center for Policy Research in Higher Education in National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi. And today I am here to talk with you regarding enabling learning environment for optimal learning. So friends, learning is a buzzword now. Learning is a context related activity. But there are many perspectives of learning and I am bringing some of those perspectives before you. So, there are a number of educationists, psychologists, they see learning as a process of engaging and manipulating objects, experiences and conversations to build mental models of the world. So, for them learning is a process. And what is learning is a process of what? Process of engaging and manipulating objects, experiences and conversations to build mental models of the world. Then there is another perspective, and that perspective is learning refers to changes occurring with respect to the skill, understandings or attitudes of individual learners. Then another perspective is that learning involves understanding, relating ideas and making connections. So, understanding, relating ideas and making connection between prior and new knowledge. So, we are putting a relationship between what we already know and what we intend to know what we intend to know now. Then learning is counted in terms of relatively permanent behavior, but learning is a social activity as well. And learning is both visible and invisible. Sometimes a learner expresses it and sometimes not. So, in a way you can see learning is a process, learning brings changes and those changes we count, and learning is an individual as well as a social activity, and we have to also understand that learning is both visible and invisible. Then there are many factors that play a role in learning. What are these factors? There are basically 5 factors. There may be many more, but there are 5 basic factors that play an essential role in learning. The first factor is of course our brain, then our social environment, observation, communications and situations. So, these 5 play a very important role in learning. Learning is a combination of several factors. When we combine all these, the brain, social environment, observation, communication and situation, we come up with a term named as learning environment. So, the learning environment that accommodates all the above has a direct and indirect influence on student learning. Let me remind again, learning environment has a direct impact as well as indirect impact on student learning. So, what is learning environment? Basically, how we define learning environment? Learning environment refers to the diverse physical location, and now we are talking about online teaching and learning. So, I can add physical as well as virtual locations. But the basic definition is that learning environment refers to the diverse physical location, context and culture. So, 3 things: location, context, in which context learning is taking place, and cultures in which students learn. When we combine all these 3, then the term comes, then the product is learning environment. So, there is no fixed space for learning. Students learn in a wide variety of settings, and learning environment is often used as a more accurate or preferred alternative to classroom. Because classroom, when we talk about classroom, we usually talk about boundaries or the physical infrastructure. No, learning environment is something more, something bigger. Learning environment has a soul in it, which has more limited and traditional connotation, while learning environment is something bigger, something more. A room with rows of desks and a chalkboard is a classroom. So, what type of learning environments? There are basically 4 types of learning environment. The first we call learner centered learning environments. What do you mean by learning centered environments? So, 3 things. In learner centered environments, teachers have to pay attention to knowledge, skill and attitude of students, and they have to recognize and appreciate student cultural background or prior experiences, and they have to encourage students to use their past experiences and knowledge. And I am sure you all are familiar with learner centered learning environment. Then the second type of learning environment is knowledge centered learning environment. The characteristic of knowledge centered environments is that these environments provide an emphasis in really knowing what content is taught in the classroom, why it is taught, and what competency or mastery looks like for that subject area. And the third one is assessment centered learning environments. Assessment centered environments allow teacher to grasp student preconception through the use of frequent and immediate formative assessment. And the fourth is we call community centered learning environment. We see classroom from the perspective of a community, bunch of learners as a community members. So, community centered learning environment consider, this is important, community centered environments consider the context in which learning takes place. So, the context is important. So, in knowledge centered environment, knowledge is important, what you are learning is important, but here the context why you are learning and for what purpose you are learning, this is important. Consider the context in which learning takes place for students. The first is, when you talk about learning environment, you have to make learning spaces engaging. In our existing system of education, particularly in offline teaching or in face-to-face mode teaching, or we call traditional teaching, you see classes are arranged in row and desk manners. The second is not only you, because learning environment is for learners. So, you have to motivate students to create their learning environment. That you can work is, you can and you have to encourage students to ask, share and suggest. Always promote your students to ask, to question, and in those classes, in those learning environment where students are asking, the learning is better, learning is more meaningful. So, always motivate them, always encourage them to ask, to raise question, also tell them, also motivate them to share and suggest. If you are bringing these 3 things into your classroom, mind me my friends, you don't need to worry about learning environments. You have already created a wonderful learning environments. The 3 things, ask, share and suggest. So, as a teacher, try to bring those 3 qualities in your learners. Give them freedom to ask, motivate them to share, and also tell them, if you have anything in mind, feel free to suggest. So, once you are encouraging your student to ask, share and suggest, you are creating a better learning environment. Dynamic and constructive feedback. Look, you have done this, how you can do it in a better way. So, dynamic and constructive feedback, and not only dynamic and constructive feedback from teacher, but dynamic and constructive feedback among the learner. You have to bring real life examples into your classroom to make your classroom a wonderful place to learn, a joyful place to learn, a meaningful place to learn. You have to bring real life examples. You as a teacher can bring real life example, and you can also ask learners or students to bring real life examples. This will make learning more meaningful, because in a way you will bring outside world into your classroom. So, bring real life examples into your classroom. You have to promote collaborative learning activities among your learners, and you have to appreciate cultural diversity. The next principle that you can follow is that we have to celebrate successes and achievement, because in every class there are good number of learners. And the last, always smile. When you are a teacher, there is no set definition of learning, and I have also told you that there is never a set way to promote learning. But research has proved that learning environments play a very important role in promotion of learning. And there are very many types of learning environment. You also have different type, you also have experience of different type of learning environments. So you can change any learning environment as a better learning environment. The task before us teachers is to convert our learning environments into optimal learning environments. A simple task is to creating simple learning environments, basic learning environment, traditional learning environments into optimal learning environments. And I have discussed some of the techniques, some of the principles, some of the activities that you can follow. And I am sure that when you will follow these, when you will practice these, your traditional learning environment will certainly convert into or evolve into as optimal learning environment. And the good thing about optimal learning environments, that optimal learning environments are those learning environments where learners feel happy as well as teachers feel happy. Thank you so much.